here to do the devil's work.
Keep away from Pumpkinhead unless you're tired of living. His enemies are mostly dead, and he's mean and unforgiving. These are the first lines of a poem written by Ed Justin that became the catalyst for an idea of an unstoppable demon of vengeance massacring the countryside of a small mountain town in the South. Back in 1988, the special effects legend responsible for helping create a ton of legendary monsters like The Thing, Terminator, Aliens, Predator, and eventually even Jurassic Park, along with countless other films, had his directorial debut in this small but effective horror movie called Pumpkinhead. Stan Winston has gone down in history as one of the greatest special effects and makeup artists in cinema history, unfortunately passing away in 2008, so rest in peace to an all-time great, and we're going to talk about his horror movie. Pumpkinhead is one of those movies I would see at the video store when I was a little kid walking through the horror aisle, and I would look at the artwork on the VHS cover, which would just absolutely enthrall me and terrify me at the same time. I always wondered, what the hell is this movie? What the hell is Pumpkinhead? What kind of movie could this possibly be? And if you have the same thoughts, well, let's dive right in.
Now it begins. It begins.
The opening of the film is actually a flashback taking place in the 1950s where our main character is a small child and he happens to witness an attack of Pumpkinhead outside of his window. Some unknown victim being picked up and killed by the monster, and one would think that this would traumatize a child for life. But when it flashes forward to the present-day 1980s, the child has grown up into motherfucking Lance Hendrickson, so I guess he's doing all right. And he really is. He's just an honest, hard-working man who owns a small general store and is raising a son, although by himself because of the loss of his wife. And him and his son are the most important emotional crux of this movie, and the dynamic between him and his son is the most important emotional crux of this movie, and buying their relationship together I think works really well for me. I think a lot of that is also due to Lance Hendrickson and his dedication to the role and the reason why he wanted to do it. It was the main concept that actually drew him to want to take on the project, was this feeling of a broken father trying to take care of this little child all by himself. But since what we see right now is loving and genuinely wholesome, and this is a horror movie, we know that this isn't going to last for long. And when I say this movie takes place in a small mountain town, I mean small. Like, this is the general store. It looks like just some random shack that you would think would be abandoned. The story gets moving a little bit when a group of young people are simply passing by and stop at the general store, and two of them decide to have a dirt bike race while they wait. Well, when you have a small child running around at the same time, it's a recipe for disaster. Don't worry, the dog stays alive, but the child does not. Now, the only thing I never liked about this scene is that the kid is supposed to have been killed by being hit by the dirt bike, but the child actor who is laying on the ground, he keeps opening and closing his eyes. I don't know, maybe he's meant to be barely conscious at this point or something, but it's always been extremely distracting for me. I don't know why they didn't just have him keep his eyes closed the entire time. Anyway, instead of being responsible and owning up to the mistake, the guy that actually hit the kid, well, he's already on probation, and so he runs off, not wanting to get caught by the cops or anything and be in any more trouble or have anything else added to his record. He doesn't seem to give a shit about the kid at all. He's just trying to save his own skin. The other kids definitely do care that the kid was killed, but are also scared of some of the repercussions, and a lot of them leave as well, except for one kid named Steve, who does stay behind until Ed shows up. And this scene is a hauntingly quiet scene as Ed realizes that his son, the only person he has in the world, is dead right in front of him. Lance Hendrickson is by far the best actor in the movie because all the young cast, well, they could be better. But Lance here, I think he really sells the mix of emotions between just the confusion, the heartache, and of course the pure rage that he feels. One thing that I wish was done a little bit better is when the kids are having an argument with one another on whether or not they should turn themselves into the police or not. This was a decade before I Know What You Did Last Summer, and it's a similar situation at hand here. But the scene only lasts for a couple of minutes until Joel, the one that actually did kill the kid, just decides to lock them in a closet to stop them from calling the police. I'll admit the movie does take about a good half hour or 40 minutes before it really starts to pick up the pace, but it takes specific amounts of time to try to get you to feel the pain that Ed is going through. And through his desperation to get his son back, he seeks out an elderly woman living in the mountains that many have called a witch. Well, no better time to see if that's true. And this is where things start to get good. The set design and atmosphere of the witch's hut really stands out, and the way that she's shown from that side profile while she's talking to Ed, it's just all really well done.
What do you want, Ed Hardy? Say.
She doesn't have the power to bring his son back to life, or so she says, but when she gets Ed to admit that he wants revenge for what happened, she makes another suggestion: resurrecting a vengeance demon to satisfy his bloodlust. And this is the Pumpkinhead. Now, Pumpkinhead doesn't have a pumpkin for a head. He just comes from a cemetery, which is located in a pumpkin patch, which, again, the set design for this is pretty incredible, and I love looking at it. I actually wish that this set was in more of the movie. The creature itself is kind of reminiscent of the alien xenomorph, which makes sense because Stan Winston did work on that as well. The lore is really interesting too, because Ed has to go to the pumpkin patch and dig up a corpse. He brings that corpse back to the witch, and then using his own blood, the witch brings the corpse to life, and then it kind of grows and mutates into what we see as the creature. It's kind of like the spirit of whatever the vengeance demon is infects and takes over the corpse, changing it to represent its own form. And then it's also directly linked to the person who wanted revenge. So when Pumpkinhead kills a victim, Ed can sense it. And also when Ed gets hurt, so does the monster. Actually, what might be the creepiest scene of the movie is when Ed has a vision of his dead son sitting up in the car and simply asking him, why? Whether this is meant to be Ed's own conscious talking to him or literally his son trying to communicate with him, the scene itself is really uncomfortable and effective, and I think it's the scariest scene in the movie. From there, the movie starts going as you would expect. The monster begins to stalk the group of kids and kill them off one by one, kind of like a slasher film. The animatronics and the suit work of the Pumpkinhead creature are definitely the highlight of the movie, and they're really fun to see. It takes a little while before we see the entire creature all in one shot, because they build up the suspense before that actually happens, but every shot with the whole suit in the frame just looks so freaking cool, and I'm glad they haven't tried to remake Pumpkinhead yet with CGI, although I'm sure they will someday. But for now, this is the look of Pumpkinhead, and I think it works incredibly. I do love when Joel tries to fight back with the machete, and it just does not work. Or when Pumpkinhead just drops that chick out of a tree onto a rock. Sure, none of these kids besides Joel himself really deserve anything that's happening to him, but Pumpkinhead just looks so cool killing people that, you know what, I just kind of enjoy it regardless. But when Joel, the kid that actually did kill the kid, finally does die, it's the best kill in the movie. He has a rifle and Pumpkinhead takes it from him, and it's so cool to see Pumpkinhead holding a gun, number one, and you think, is Pumpkinhead gonna shoot him? No, even better. He impales the motherfucker with the gun and then hoists him up into the air kind of like a trophy. It's really cool. There's also a local kid character that tries to help the survivors out, and I don't know, I always felt like he was kind of an unnecessary addition, but he does fine enough. Another great scene is this broken down building with the blue moonlight in the background. Pumpkinhead looks great here, and I love how he sees a cross and then just gets pissed off at it, picks it up, and starts breaking it into pieces. The climax of the movie sees Ed now trying to stop the monster and its chaos, taking the responsibility onto his own shoulders, though it seems like nothing can harm the creature. He even gets out the flamethrower, but still doesn't work. When they come face to face, Ed recognizes again that when he feels pain, so does the monster. And when that happens, there's a great shot of Ed's face looking more monstrous and Pumpkinhead's face looking relatively human. Sure, it's meant to imply that they are connected, yeah, but I also think it's a comment on how Ed let himself become a monster when his lust for vengeance overwhelmed him, when in reality, his son never would have wanted him to do any of this. He cursed himself by making a deal with a witch at a time of weakness, and the only way out of it, and to stop the monster, is to take his own life. And that's the most tragic part of this movie to me, as it has something to say about the cycle of revenge and how it harms everybody involved. See, because not only is Ed needing to kill himself to end the murders and the monsters and all that kind of stuff, but at the end of the movie, the witch buries Ed's body in the same pumpkin patch that he dug up the previous corpse, which is basically implying that Ed's body will become the next Pumpkinhead, the next time that somebody comes to her wishing for revenge. So he will literally become the monster. Crazy. Look, Pumpkinhead is not a masterpiece or anything. There is a lot of corny acting from all the kid characters. There's some strange editing choices here. And personally, I've never really been a big fan of the soundtrack and all the kind of southern twang that it uses, but that's just a personal preference. However, I love the monster design and the concepts behind it. I like that they tried to put a lot of heart into this movie and actually give it some kind of emotional core. I like Lance Hendrickson's performance. I think he does a really, really great job here. And I also think it's so cool to see the directorial effort of Stan Winston. So much of his career is making legendary movie monsters for other people, so it was nice to see him make one for himself. Also, with the set designs, the witch's hut, the cemetery, the backwoods of the mountain, it really sets up the perfect atmosphere for a great Halloween ambiance. It would be a great movie to have on in the background during your Halloween party or during trick or treat or anything like that. So go ahead and grab a pumpkin to carve and watch Pumpkinhead while you're doing it. And if you can also get some head while watching Pumpkinhead, well, that's just a perfect evening if you ask me. Anyways, guys, if you are a fan of Pumpkinhead, let me know what you think about it in the comments below. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Have you seen it before? Do you remember seeing the awesome VHS artwork when you were a little kid like me? And truth be told, I've never seen any of the sequels, so I don't know if they're any good, but there's a couple of them out there. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching this Month of Horror video. I have one more that I'm going to drop on Halloween itself, and all of you guys that have been supporting and watching the Month of Horror reviews, I really, really appreciate it, and special shout out to you guys. Please like the video and comment to help it be seen in the algorithm a little bit better, and if you want to support the channel on a deeper level, I would really appreciate it. I have channel memberships, Patreon, merch store, and all the social media links where you can follow me down below in the description. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll talk to you next time.